I'm Alison Warner, founder of Evolve and Grow and author of Build and Grow. Welcome to the Evolve and Grow podcast show, where I share lots of useful tips and advice to tradespeople who are looking to move off the tools and grow a really successful business. Hi, I'm Alison, and welcome to the first ever Evolve and Grow podcast show. I'm delighted that you can join me. I wrote a book called Build and Grow, How to Go from Tradesperson to Managing Director in the Construction and Trade Industries back in 2017. I'll take you through the journey that took me up till that point. But first of all, I'd like to share with you one of the parts of the book which is often referred to as people's favourite. It always makes me chuckle. And it's in the first, couple of pages of the book where I talk about learning how to budget at the age of 6, sitting alongside my dad, who used to do his books on a Sunday. So my dad had his own gardening and hardware business. And back in the 70s, we didn't have computers to do these things. So it was the good old fashioned paper and pen. And he used to get these huge ledger books out and then sit down and do his books. And this obviously fascinated me. I was only 6 years old, but I was obviously, I had a natural interest, you might say, for figures even back then. And I had my little piggy bank and I got a huge sum of something like 10 pence a week in pocket money, and I used to balance my books. And now I wasn't a spender, I was very much a saver. And once a year we took a family holiday to Yorkshire, and mysteriously £5 used to appear in my piggy bank, and it used to completely throw my books out. And so that's how I first learned to budget. And that's been a skill that has been so prevalent and important for me in life, not just in terms of me being able to help other businesses understand their figures and budget accordingly, but also obviously in my personal life as well, running the household and saving for the future. So it always makes me laugh that is one of people's favourite parts of the book. So I think, and I talk about this as well in the book, I think it was very evident from a young age that I was going to be destined for business as opposed to parenting. I chose not to have children. And when I think back to the games that I used to play as a child, it was always taking the school register or playing shops. It was never mummies and daddies. And I look at my family, I think I very much take after my dad's side of the family. My dad, as I say, was a retailer, and his father was also a retailer. So I do think it is in our genes, this element of business. When I think back to when I was 18, I left the Northeast and came down to London to start a social policy degree. Really not sure what I would have ended up doing, but I made a very quick decision that it wasn't right for me, and I went home kind of with my tail between my legs. I then took a year out and got a job in a local hotel / pub, which was so beneficial because I guess I got my first life training then. Thinking back, I was probably a little bit green, and working in a pub was one of the best things that I could have done, I think. So I did that for a year, and then I went back to college and did an HND in hotel management. So by the end of my HND, the last thing I wanted to see was a hotel unless I was actually staying in it as a guest. The industry was renowned for long hours, low pay, and there was a well-known pizza chain that was advertising at the time for trainee managers. So I moved back to London and worked for them. And they taught me a tremendous amount around how to run a business, how to run profit and loss. And they actually gave you hands-on experience of managing people pretty much from day one. And I loved it. So I did that for a couple of years. I managed stores for them. And then one day I was put onto an assessment centre that I didn't really know too much about. And it turned out that it was for a promotion to area manager, which I then was successful in, and took over North Central London. It was quite a challenging patch. I often look back at my career and think, as often many of us do, and you can kind of see why things happened. And I think I was meant to have that experience of doing it the hard way, perhaps first off, and learning a lot from it. So then in 2001, I moved on again, and this time worked for another well-known chain, but of coffee shops, which was perhaps a little easier, bit of a... it was like a walk in the park compared to the background that I'd come from. So I started working for them and was a district manager for 4 years. And then I moved into HR and looked after resourcing for the UK and Ireland. Grew the team from 3 up to 9. And we were opening 3 stores a week. Everything was great. I loved the company. I loved my team. I loved my job. And then the recession hit. And myself and the team were made redundant. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it is the truth that it is the best thing that could have happened to me, because I never thought about working for myself, and it really forced me to think about, right, what is it I actually want to do next? And I realised, I don't want to get back on the train at 7 o'clock in the morning, get home at 8:30 at night, absolutely shattered by the end of the week. I want to do something that I still love, but something that gives me a better work-life balance. And so Evolve and Grow was formed. So that was back in February 2010. If I'm honest, there was no real strategy to it. I purely set up the business as a coach and started working with people that I knew that had worked for my previous two businesses. I was fortunate that through the contacts that I had, I was given quite a bit of work, and certainly enough to get started. And then in November of that year, I joined BNI, Business Networking International. Any of you who have your own business, who are a trade, will probably have come across this organisation. It's really, really amazing way of growing a business if you enjoy networking and helping other people. And that took me down a whole different route of working with SMEs, small businesses. And I became very busy very quickly. I guess having the benefit of having worked for 2 large organisations that really invested in you and gave you a lot of training, you kind of don't know what you know sometimes until you realise that other people perhaps haven't been given that opportunity. And so I worked with all sorts of different sectors: financial advisors, web developers, osteopaths, you name it. I've probably worked with them at some point or another. But in 2014, I started working with an air conditioning business. And at the time, the business owner, it was just him and one subcontractor. And he had a huge amount of potential, I could see. Something that I've realised over the years is I love finding untapped potential. That's why our mission statement is developing untapped potential in people and business. And I could just see that he had strengths very much in the area of building relationships with his customers. But I could also see that unless he took some steps quite soon, his business was in danger of falling over. So he had no back office support. His wife was an accountant. She worked up in town, and it was meaning that he would come home in the evening. They would sit down and do invoices together in the evening, and then again at the weekend. And I could see that there was no future in that. They'd burn themselves out, and it would probably affect the marriage ultimately. So I convinced him to take some help on. It makes me laugh because I remember he said, "Okay, I'll take somebody on part time for 3 weeks, and I'll get the backlog sorted, and that'll be fine." Well, of course, that person quickly became full time. His business is now turning over 10 times what it was back then, 5 years ago, and he's got 6 people in the office now. So really, really good success story. And he then referred me on to another couple of trade businesses, and it perhaps wasn't as significant a change as with Jacques, but equally they made some pretty big steps forward, and it was easy to see that there was so much potential in this industry. And so in 2015 decided to specialise in the construction and trade sectors. and launched Build and Grow. So in the process of writing the book, Build and Grow, it was really, really beneficial, actually, just the whole process of writing the book, because it made me step back and think about what it was I was doing with clients that was then helping them create these results. And ironically, I had kind of the same challenges in my own business as the trades had, in that I was often at capacity and I couldn't expand unless I took on other people. But my challenge was always, if I take on other people, how do I get across what it is that I do with clients so that they can replicate it? And that's where writing the book was really, really helpful, because, as I say, it made me step back and think about the process, I guess, and that's how the build system was formed. So the build system is a 5-step process that we take clients through, which consists of things like putting a business plan together, helping the business owner understand their strengths, putting systems and processes in place, and helping them recruit and retain high-performing teams. That's it in essence. And also looking at the customer journey and understanding how they can provide better service and where the blockages are. So that kind of brings us up to 2019. And we have 22 clients on our books at the moment, and the majority of them are builders, plumbers, electricians, businesses of that type of nature. We have 2 coaches in addition to myself that see clients. And I would just love to be able to help more and more trade businesses. There's so many people who I see in this sector who are so stressed and have so much untapped potential. And often it's some just simple tweaks that can really make a huge difference. So I'm so looking forward to you joining me on future podcasts. I'm Alison Warner, and I look forward to seeing you soon. I really hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Please do share on social media. And if you'd like to learn more, head over to my website, www.evolveandgrowcoaching.com, where you'll find more details and also my book, Build and Grow, which is available on Amazon. Finally, you can also support the show by writing a review and subscribing on iTunes.